Okay, hello to all. This is the tarot reading for our world for August 2024. It has been quite an eventful summer so far, and August promises to be just as eventful. So hang on there. We have some months just a ton of questions, almost too many to choose from. And other months, there's really nothing that looks interesting to me. But this month, there were many, many things I wanted to ask about. But I definitely didn't want to rehash all of the speculations around Trump and the attempted assassination. That just felt like overkill. So I focused first on relationships with Russia, China, and other nations. And then I tried to get some more information related to reports that a lot of people, and even myself, are saying about they feel something big is coming in August. There was also a question about people wearing masks. And lastly, I decided to consult the medicine cards to see if Mother Nature had some advice for us this month. So here are the questions. Number 1. With all of the political rhetoric and reports that China and Russia are our biggest enemies, what is the most important thing for us to be aware of regarding our relationships with other nations? Number 2, is there something big, disturbing, and specific coming in August that we should be prepared for? Number 3, what is the outcome for our government if people were to realize that some of our political leaders were actors wearing masks? And number 4, what message does Mother Nature and the animal kingdom have for us in the month of August? So the cards drawn were, in answer to the first question, it was the Death card, number 13 in the Major Arcana. The second card drawn was a Page of Pentacles. The third card drawn was the Four of Swords. And the last card from Mother Nature was the Badger. Very interesting energy there. So question number 1, with all of the political rhetoric and the reports that China and Russia are our biggest enemies, what's the most important thing for us to be aware of regarding our relationships with other nations? And the card drawn here, number 13, the Death card, I really did not expect such a powerful card in response to my question, and I had to stop and think about it for a couple of days. There are so many ways that we could respond to this card, so many ways to read this. But the basic message of the Death card is something is coming to an end. The Reaper is ready to do his work. So my first reaction when I pulled the card was, oh no, we're in danger of going to war, of facing death. But I think the message is deeper and much more complex than that. The question was about our relationships with other nations. And the Death card indicates that those relationships come to an end. They're over. We are about to reap what we have sown. So when we look at this card, we see a skeleton wearing a full suit of armor and riding a white horse. Skeletons and white horses both symbolize death. The skeleton tells us that the death actually occurred long ago, long enough for the body to completely decompose. All that's left is this bare bones framework. The message here is that something died, but the existence, the illusion of its existence, the idea that it's still there has continued for quite some time. Are we living on propaganda that continues to spit out lies, pushing an illusion that someone wants us to believe? What do we observe when we look around at reality? What do we really see? You know, even the MAGA slogan, Make America Great Again, indicates in a sort of a backwards way that America was a great country at some point, but lost that and needs to regroup if it wants to be great again. Skeletons also indicate that there's no meat left on the bones, no skin, no flesh or muscle. And since our question has to do with becoming aware of our relationships with Russia, China, and other nations, the skeleton says that we have nothing to offer other nations. And there's nothing left of the relationships we once enjoyed. There's nothing to sustain a relationship, no meat. We have no skin in the game. And we have lost all muscle power and influence. Now, I've been warning for a year, maybe more, that other countries are going to move on without us. And this card is signaling exactly that situation in a rather blunt way. Are we going to end up in the same boat as Libya, fighting one another, destroying all the infrastructure, and descending into chaos? The rider carries a black and white flag with a large flower on it. And that flower is composed of 5 ears of grain and represents harvest time. Now, the harvest has little to do with corn, wheat, or oats, however. The, quote, ears of grain symbolize the results of going against the grain of cooperative, productive relationships with others. It tells us we failed to listen carefully and deeply to others in order to ascertain who they are, how they are, what they want, what their basic ideas and characteristics are, what they believe in, and what they consider to be normal, and how best to work with them. So, like the overall message of the death card, that flower says that we're going to get the results. We're going to reap the harvest that we have sown. The horse is stepping over a dead king who's lost his crown, and standing right in front of the rider and the horse is a bishop without a staff. Together, the dead king and the bishop symbolize that we are no longer the king of nations, and no one believes or trusts us anymore. Kings symbolize power, and bishops symbolize the ability to influence consciousness. Without these, we have lost power to rule or even to influence others. How can we do business with others if nobody wants to deal with us? There are 2 children kneeling beside the dead king and the bishop. The children represent the naivete and the immaturity of many humans who just do as the king dictates and believe as the bishop tells them. This has led them to the point that they are now facing death. Now, that's us, you guys. How many people take responsibility for stepping into their own power or defining their own beliefs? One of the children has turned away from the king and the bishop, but she still kneels, indicating a lack of standing on her own. A ship sails down the river, carrying souls to their destiny and judgment. Again, This represents that something has already been completed and the decisions are in. The trees leaning to the right in the wind, together with that blue background, symbolize becoming conscious of our effects on the family of humanity and perhaps making an effort to change, which would be good, even if it's a little late. Above, the sky is gray. And over on the right side of the card at the right edge, the sun is coming up between two pillars, symbolizing the gates of heaven. And you can see the skyline of the heavenly city in between the pillars. The gray sky points to a period when the outlook is not bright and sunny, and the pillars or gates to the heavenly new city on the horizon call for strength and courage as we watch the sun come up for someone else, unless we make serious changes. In actuality, the death card represents total transformation, and we might need that. And there's no bigger transformation than going from life to death, or even death to life. Since heaven symbolizes a good life filled with beauty, good relationships, and all needs being fulfilled, this tells us that either we change willingly or circumstances will force that change upon us. Since our question is about the relationships with Russia, China, and other nations, they may be the ones to force that change. If we are wise, we will see that if we get pushy and aggressive, they will most likely push right back, pushing us out of their lives and out of their circle of relationships. We can't have that. We need each other. The death card is associated with the number 4, and 4 represents manifestation and material reality, needing to deal with what's real. Keywords for the death card are end, the close, mortality, destruction, corruption, failure, inertia, hope destroyed, maturation, decline, final endings, change, harvest, and inevitability. Question number 2. Is there something big, disturbing, and specific coming in August that we should be prepared for? Now, the card drawn in answer to question number 2 was the Page of Pentacles. And I have to say I was quite disappointed when I saw it. I was going to draw a second card to see if I could get something more specific. But as soon as I picked up the deck, I saw the white wall in my mind's eye and I heard the words, no, do not destroy the lesson. The white wall is my signal for going no further in trying to see something that I want to know or I'm curious about. It indicates a major turning point or lesson that must be learned and integrated. So I'll just say a few things about the Page of Pentacles and let it go at that. In looking at the card, we see the page is standing in the middle of a field, and he's holding a pentacle up in such a way that we might think he's examining it, perhaps worshiping it, wondering if it's real, or even about to give it away to someone. Pentacles are the symbol of all things material: land, houses, cars, money, food, clothing, personal skills and abilities. Since our question is about something big, disturbing, and specific, maybe coming in August, This card says that we may be challenged regarding the physical things we own, because the basic message of the card is, and this is a quote, if you want to maintain your physical goods and your sovereignty, you will have to use everything you've got and do everything you can, leaving no stone unturned. Wow. Let me say that piece again. If you want to maintain your physical goods and your sovereignty, you will have to use everything you've got and do everything you can, leaving no stone unturned. A sense of humor and mastery of innovative ways will be required. End quote. So that's quite a message. And there is a secondary message to this card that says it's time to think about having an effect that goes beyond yourself, because we may be cast into a role or a position we don't want. When this occurs, we are to stop and figure out how we got where we're at and what we could do differently to change the results we manifested. The page is wearing a green tunic, and that green tunic says that we will be dealing with something that we don't have much experience with. But that elaborate red headdress and scarf says that we do have the passion needed. The bright yellow sky all around, almost all the way to the entire background of the card. That bright yellow sky calls for using an intelligent approach, not going off willy-nilly. The blue mountain with a single peak represents that whatever happens, it will involve a single massive lesson and will bring clarity to the entire family of humans. That sounds like a good thing, a promise. This card represents the goal of hanging on to what is valuable. And that may require some careful assessment of our values and ethics. You know, the way he's holding that pentacle there, and it almost like he's going to give it away. Be careful what you give away. Note that the Page of Pentacles does not have any means of transport. He's on foot. And this indicates that we may not be able to move ahead if we do not deal with a situation in a way that we begin to understand something we did not understand previously. And that something may change us at the core. Keywords for the Page of Pentacles are diligence, applied effort, practicality, sharply defined, rigid, messenger, apprentice, new learning, tangible reality, material well-being, and abrupt. So, question number 3, what is the outcome for our government if people were to realize that some of our political leaders were actors wearing masks? And the card drawn here was the Four of Swords. This is a card we saw a couple of times in 2023, and both times it involved questions about the fate of the U.S. government and the Western countries. So here we are with another question involving the fate of government or reactions to something going on regarding government. So our question focuses on government run by politicians who may be wearing masks. And although there are several messages associated with this card, the basic message is quote, there is a danger of real life and mental thinking parting company if the energy of mental activity becomes frozen or paralyzed. So this suggests that the government would become paralyzed or unable to function if it were widely believed that politicians were not who we thought they were because they were wearing masks. The card shows a figure lying on a stone sarcophagus, and it's not clear whether he's alive or dead. However, if our question were to become a reality, this card tells us it would be a huge, huge setback for both sides. Both sides. This is the card of needing to allow time for reflection before doing anything, because the nature of the issue would need to be processed at very deep levels in everyone on both sides. One of the encouragements, however, of this card is that we can master even major issues and contradictions, clarify huge incongruities, and resolve challenging conflicts if we will just calm down and allow our minds, and that means government minds and people minds, to work in every direction and then make a decision. It's kind of like a timeout card. Because of the way I asked the question, the figure represents both government and the people. And when seen as a government that has suddenly been found out to be wearing masks and pretending, the figure could be seen as fossilized and turned to stone. There would go our government. Perhaps the government would be seen as being asleep or paralyzed or in deep, quiet reflection. Perhaps those in government know something we don't know, and they just don't know how to deal with what they know. If this is the case, their actions might make no sense to us because we don't have all the information needed. And I'll just insert a personal comment here. They have not yet realized that we are their best allies. If the figure on the sarcophagus is seen as representing the people who suddenly realize that some of their political leaders are actors wearing masks, then the figure on the sarcophagus could indicate a feeling of paralysis, of absolutely not knowing what to think or what to say or do. On both sides, the government and the people, there could be an inability to act or even to react with anything that could help the situation. Both the figure and the sarcophagus are dirty yellow color, and that signifies confusion, contamination by shadowy tendencies, dark secrets, and even mental problems, perhaps on both sides. So we could ask, do you think our politicians have mental problems? Or are we nuts for thinking they would do such a thing? Who would do such a thing and think they would get away with it? The stained glass window is the only bright spot in the entire card, and it symbolizes facing a large and complex puzzle with the need to put the pieces together in order to see the whole picture. Stained glass also represents the problem of perception having been deliberately colored in order to change our understanding or cloud the true picture. Thus, the need will be to gather all of the pieces in order to get to the truth. Swords are the suit of intellectual prowess and the ability to sort things out. They demand, however, maturity and symbolize learning through experience in order to make things work better, flow more smoothly, and lighten the burden of living in a 3D world. You know, sometimes it's tough to be here. The swords hanging on the wall indicate that certain aspects of a situation have been sorted out and positioned correctly. But the fourth sword at the bottom of a card indicates that there is a critical piece of the puzzle that is yet to surface and be grasped by the population. When we have sorted it out, then the Latin word, Pax, in the stained glass window, is a promise of finally reaching peace, finally understanding. The Four of Swords is known as the Lord of Truce and Rest from Strife. Certainly a message to make us think twice about violent reactions to finding out something awful. After all, what was our role in allowing this situation to get to this point? Were we remiss in taking an active role because we were too busy to pay attention to what was happening? Or we turned a blind eye because we saw, well, that doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me, until it does. Keywords for the Four of Swords are steady, lay foundations, mental affliction, judgment, legal matters, conflict, to order, to manifest, expansion, excess, protection, adventure, refuge from mental strife, loneliness, retreat, exile, prudence, contemplation, and convalescence. Question number 4. What message does Mother Nature and the animal kingdom have for us in the month of August? And the card drawn here was from the medicine cards. It's number 29, the badger. The message of the badger comes down to a single word, and it's aggressiveness. Badgers are the state animal of Michigan. So we learn about badgers in grade school. But badgers are quite vicious. They are boldly vicious, and they never give up. They represent the need for bold self-expression and self-reliance. Badgers are quick to anger and even quicker to fight. They are renowned for their aggressiveness and the amazing fact that they don't panic. They just pounce. This, in fact, is the great power of badger medicine, the willingness to fight for what you want. Badger is also the keeper of roots. Roots, R-O-O-T-S. And this includes roots used for healing, like echinacea roots or burdock roots, that kind of thing, as well as the roots we feel when we are grounded in love for a place, a person, a way of life. Grounded in love, rooted in love. Ted Andrews points out that badgers look fat and blubbery, but they are muscular and powerful. All that loose outer skin makes it difficult for enemies to get their teeth into badger and cause any serious injuries. All they get is skin. Badgers are also formidable diggers, and they quickly dig beneath the surface of situations, understanding the hidden roots of things. Badger energy is boss energy. Badger people are known for their ability to tear up any enemy. They are also courageous and willing to be unconventional. For this reason, they make the best healers. They'll try all sorts of things, and the best generals, because they never give up. With Badger medicine, the key is to become aggressive enough to do something about your present state of affairs. And Badger teaches you to get angry in a creative way. The message of this card, basic message of this card is, and I quote, "Stop lolling around. Your doldrums must become a thing of the past. Stop lolling around." Badger reminds us that anger is usually a feeling of helplessness that's misdirected at others. One of the things that I love about Badger medicine is that Badgers are the keepers of the stories. This is attributed to the fact that they're really quite unsociable. They want to belong, so they need to know the stories, but they don't want to socialize. They don't want to hang out with others. They just want to know the true stories of courage, heroism, or how things unfolded. And that's enough of a connection for them. In other words, they teach us, don't get caught in gossip or other people's stories, and don't give up your own narrative. Tell it the way you see it, feel it, and understand it. The biggest lessons that Badgers teach are around the pitfalls of shyness and insecurity. Don't be shy. Don't be insecure. Stand up for yourself and don't panic or back down. Badger speaks of a need for more aggressive action in life. And he closes by saying, and this is a very important quote, "No more inactivity can prevail without creating pain of some kind." No more inactivity can prevail without creating pain of some kind. In other words, doing nothing is just going to make it worse in the long run. That is something to think about. So that's it for our questions. Let's sum up. Question number 1 was, with all of the political rhetoric and reports that Russia and China are our biggest enemies, what is the most important thing for us to be aware of regarding relationships with other nations? And the card drawn here was the Death card, number 13 in the Major Arcana, indicating this will be a major lesson for us. The message here is not so much that we'll have war or be attacked, although those are possibilities. The bigger message is the loss of any kind of relationship with Russia, China, and other nations. The Death card is known as the Reaper, and this means that we are about to harvest the results of our actions and behaviors over the past many decades. These results may very well be that we are abandoned on the world stage. Since we have long ago given away our manufacturing base and failed to keep up the old skills, that will be a problem. The Death card tells us that we are no longer the king of nations, and we've lost power. And neither our people nor other nations believe in us or our word. Question number 2 was, is there something big, disturbing, and specific coming in August that we should prepare for? And this question drew the Page of Pentacles, which I initially thought was not specific enough. I wanted to draw another card, but my own intuition began flashing lights and warnings, and the white wall appeared. The white wall says, go no further. So what I can say is that whatever happens in August, whether it's big or little, it holds a major turning point for us. The message of the Page of Pentacles is, if you want to maintain your physical goods and your sovereignty, you will have to use everything you've got and do everything you can, leaving no stone unturned. A sense of humor and mastery of innovative ways will be required. The page is on foot and thus without a means of moving forward, except for one step at a time, and using his own locomotion and power. Question number 3, what is the outcome for our government if people were to realize that some of our political leaders were actors wearing masks? And the card here was the Four of Swords, a card whose basic message is that both sides, government and the people, could be absolutely paralyzed by such a realization. This card warns, quote, there's a danger of real life and mental thinking parting ways. In other words, reality and our thinking about reality don't match up. And that happens if the energy of mental activity becomes frozen or paralyzed. The card calls for allowing the government some time to respond, and it asks the people to take time to evaluate and think through anything we learn, because we do not have all the pieces and are not yet seeing the whole picture. It calls for both sides to make a truce and realize the failures each made, including the failure of the government to share the truth of some situation and trust us to work with them, and the failure of the people to monitor what was happening in a way that would have had different outcomes. And lastly, question number 4, what message does Mother Nature and the animal kingdom have for us in the month of August? And this, I drew the badger, number 29 in the medicine card deck. The badger has one message for us, and that message is aggressiveness. Badgers are bold, vicious, never panic, and never give up. They represent the need for bold self-expression and self-reliance. Self-reliance, that's a bold step, let me tell you. They encourage people to fight for what they want and not back down, because Badger is boss energy that is often unconventional and full of courage. The message of the Badger is pretty blunt. Stop lolling around. Your doldrums must become a thing of the past. Badger wants us to avoid the pitfalls of shyness and insecurity, and it warns, no more inactivity can prevail without creating pain of some kind. So that's it for this month's tarot. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll take the messages to heart. It looks like we are in danger of losing our relationships with others on the planet, something I think would be very sad. One of the cards pulled has a message encouraging us to put the pieces together before we take any action. And another tells us to get aggressive and stand up for what we want. But the most important message here may be that we are going to learn something very important, and it will become a turning point for us. So let's go onward and upward. Thank you for listening. Love you. Bye.